Right now, I'm preoccupied with the letter Aleph, specifically the Aleph that's within the word Teferet, which is the sixth Sephirot of the 10 Sephirot, that's right in the middle, and the Aleph is the only letter of the 10 Sephirot, and it happens to be in the middle of the word Aleph. And for me, that's the middle of the body and the self. And remember, there are three ways to spell the letter Aleph. It's Yud Vav Yud, Yud Vav Dalet, and Yud Vav Resh. These are things you may not have heard of. They are not my invention. And for me, today, this Aleph, you see, is what I call the Anfang, as opposed to the Begunin. In philosophy, that's called the origin, as opposed to the beginning. Now, we just had Pasha Bereshis, and that's the beginning. And that begins with a letter Bet. But this letter Bet is the beginning, but there's an origin. And this origin is the letter Aleph. This letter Aleph that goes before the Bet, actually creating the word Av, which I'll get back to. But there's an origin and then a beginning, because there's two levels, as is expressed in Bereshis. Bet Reshis, two starts. The origin and then the beginning. And for me, this Aleph, that's the origin, comes from the Anoki of the 10 Commandments. The only letter that's heard by the people of Israel, they heard God say the Aleph of the Anoki, and that was it. And so, what is this Aleph of the Anoki? For me, it's the Aleph of the letters, in this case, the letter spelling Yud Vav Resh. Yud Vav Resh. And they heard this in two also different ways. See? The one way they heard it was in the full spelling. Let me just give you this of Anoki, with the Aleph is Yud Vav Resh, and then a Nun, and then a Kaf, and then a Yud. And they heard the Aleph fully spelt out. You see? And fully spelt out, the Aleph, it gives us Yud on top is 20, Vav in the middle is 12, and Resh on the bottom is 500. That's 532. That plus the other letters of Nun, Kaf, Yud in their own right, 50, 20, and 10, makes 80. 80 is the gematria of Yesod. And if we add that 80 to the 532, we get 612, which is bris, which is the brit, the bris, which is the bris of the eighth day, the highest thing, the thing that makes a Jew, the thing that makes Israel. And then what we really get to is another way to spell this Yud Vav Resh. Because Yud Vav Resh, Resh is also able to be spelt Resh Yud Shin. So that would give us 542, which is Yisrael plus 1. And it's also a hetzi, a half of the word Teferet at 1081. Half is 542. So we have a Teferet, a Shelem Vehetzi, a hole and a half. And at the Teferet level, we heard this. That's how the people of Israel heard the Aleph. They heard it as the bris. And they are the people of Israel themselves. And this 80 that comprises the Anoki is Yesod, the location of that bris. And then we take the same Aleph. Remember, Aleph can be spelled different ways. And they're all comprised equally here. And that same Aleph was heard before and placed before Bereshis. It's the origin. And that origin, when it was like that, the origin of the Torah is read as Yud Vav Yud 26. Why is that 26? That's because it's Yud Hey Vav Hey. That's the Torah's spelling of 26. And that 26 goes with a bet. And the bet, people, is written Resh with a Vav underneath. And that Resh is 200 and the Vav underneath is 6. That's 206. Plus, now the origin, the Aleph that's before it. 26 plus 206 is 232. And that happens to equal the 4 spellings of the name of Yud Hey Vav Hey. 72, 63, 45, and 52 come out. Those are the 4 spellings of Yud Hey Vav Hey. And that comes out to be 232. And that's what starts the Torah. And if you know this, simple, you know this, you know the origin. Simple, that the origin is in the Aleph, and that everything comes out of the Aleph. All the letters, and just like all the numbers come out of the number 1. The Aleph represents the number 1. And this Aleph can exist on different levels, different worlds. The worlds of hundreds are Beriah world, that's 100. The worlds of Yetzirah world is 10 world, that's 10. The world of Hosea world is units, that's 1. And so when you have the spelling of the letter of the name Aleph, Lamed, Pei, which is 111, you have 1 in these 3 worlds. And when you take a Aleph as 1,000, that's the Etziliot world. So when you have 1,111, you have Aleph in all the 4 worlds. Because Aleph is also 1,000 in itself. And this is beautiful because it all comes out of the letter Aleph. It all comes out of the most simple. The most sophisticated is the most simple. You know? But the true Kabbalah is the Peshat. How simple can we be here? showing you that the Aleph in the Ten Commandments is the Aleph that precedes the Bet in the word Bereshis.